Okay, it's been a while since I've made a phone about the smartphones, except last week I made the unboxing of the other phone. But this week, this is the review or the, after 1 week experience with this Elephone. So let's talk smartphones. I don't usually do smartphone videos on this channel because I think there is some good channels on YouTube that do that type of stuff. But since Elephone reached out to me and sent me this, said, would you like to try this? I said, sure. Thought exciting, I haven't had a smartphone on this channel that I've tried, so I wanted to try this because it looked really cool as well. Look, it's all red and everything. So if you want to see the unboxing, and if you haven't seen it, if you weren't here last week, you can click up there and you'll find it over there. So basically, this is the Elephone 3D P8 or P8 3D smartphone. It's got some pretty good specs, and let's talk about the good sides and then the bad sides. But let's start with the good sides because, the good sides are always good to start with. So first of all, this phone is super budget smartphone. I mean, it's not probably the cheapest smartphone in the world, but it is really cheap. So you can get this smartphone between 120 to 150 pounds. This particular phone comes with 4 GB of RAM and 64 GB of internal storage. The internal storage is upgradable or expandable up to 128 GB via the micro SD card slot that's on the side here, or you can use it as dual SIM phone as well, so it's a very good feature. It has a 5.5-inch Full HD screen, which is LCD screen. It's got a 4050 mAh battery. It has got a fingerprint sensor over here, which is pretty cool, and it has got a 3-camera setup. So basically 2 cameras in the back and 1 in the front. The front camera is 16 megapixels. The back cameras are 2 megapixels and 13 megapixels. Now, when the specs are out of the way, it's quite a cheap phone, this is a really good feature. First of all, it is really cheap and it packs a lot of features for that cheap price, which is amazing. So the second good feature about this phone is the battery life. It's got a 4050 mAh battery inside, which is a very big battery compared to this Samsung, which is only 2800 mAh. So it's quite a bit bigger, but obviously that's why the bigger phone as well. So very good battery life. I had it on and it easily got 1 day full of battery usage, and screen usage. So it was pretty good battery life, just my little testing what I did. The next good thing about this phone is the fingerprint reader over here, which actually usually on the cheap phones, as much as I've seen online, is quite slow, but this one is quite fast. So let's say, I'm locking the screen is unlocked over here, and then I'm touching the sensor, boom, it's unlocked. It's really fast unlocking, at least for me, so I think that's a pretty good feature. Fingerprint sensor increases the security for your smartphone and is really fast. It's amazing. Now, the next good thing about this phone is the powerful CPU. This phone has been advertised as like the gaming, maybe, smartphone, a little bit like a 3D effect as well on the screen. But it's a powerful CPU inside. It's got an octa-core inside, and we did some testing with the phones, like, getting some actual benchmarks from the phone so you can have a bit of an idea, what this phone is capable of. Then this Elephone got the benchmark of 52,820, whereas the Galaxy S5 Neo is only on 50,691. But for comparison, this is iPhone 6 Plus, and this one got 78,447. So not as good as iPhone 6 Plus, which I would have thought this one would have been better, but apparently not. But still reasonably fast and powerful CPU inside. So the next good thing about this phone is the camera stabilization. So when you're filming with the phone, you get this really stabilized footage, which is really cool, because often even the big flagship phones that are out there, they don't have a stabilization, but this one has a really good stabilization on. As you can see on some of the footage over here, it's so easy to get smooth footage with this one, even if you're shooting handheld. Let's keep going. So the next good thing about this phone that I can think of is the front-facing camera, which is 16 megapixels. So you can take some insane insane selfies. So compared to this iPhone 6 Plus, which has got only 1.3 or 2 megapixel, 1.3 or 2 megapixel front facing camera, 1.3 or 2 megapixel. This is 16 megapixel, which is, you know, you can get some crispy selfies with this one, which is pretty cool. Now, fun fact for you, the front facing camera has even more megapixels than the rear camera. So there you go. You can take some selfies and vlogging with this one and have even better quality coming from this camera than from the back camera. And now with this phone, you're gonna get also a very stock Android features because it doesn't have any skins or anything. It's just very stock Android operating system. So if you're a fan for that, that's a good side as well. Now, the last good thing that I would say about this phone is the design. So now when you're looking at this one, this phone looks so much smarter than this one. So even though this is Samsung and, you know, a brand and good make, it doesn't stand out as much as this one. If you pull this out of your bucket, a red phone that looks so sleek with this dual camera setup over there and fingerprint reader sensor, and like you've got this metal on the sides and in the back and matte aluminium kind of design. It's just really, really cool. So I think a very good point also about this phone is the design. It's a spectacular design. So Aaron just got back to me and said that actually the camera for this is 1.2 megapixels. So there you go. So now here are the bad sides and things that I didn't enjoy about this phone. Now bear in mind that this phone only costs 120 to 150 pounds, which is half the price of this one. So now the first bad thing about this is the 4G. So what do you mean about 4G? Well, basically, I could not get the 4G working on this phone. For some reason, it just didn't connect. Everything, the settings were in, the mobile data was on, it wasn't on airplane mode. No matter how much I tried, I couldn't get it on. Now, I'm gonna give it a benefit of doubt, and maybe there's some secret settings that I didn't find out, but I think of myself as a pretty techie person. So if I didn't get this, then I suppose you wouldn't find it as well. So that's a bit of a downer for me, because if you're using mobile data, which nowadays is pretty common thing, everyone uses it, this phone, I couldn't get it working. It just didn't work. Now, I also understand that this could be an off model, but what does it say about the production design if you get an off model that such a big feature doesn't work? So that's a bad side. The second weak or bad side about this phone is the screen. Now at first you're looking at it, whoa, big screen and you know, really, really cool. But then when you keep looking at it, it is an LCD screen, which means that you're not gonna get a very sharp image. You can see very pixelated like fonts here, and the fonts are not that crisp. The colors are not as contrasty, it's much more washed out, and you've got this weird kind of look when you're bending the phone that you get like a rainbow color going through, which is weird. They also tell you that there's like a 3D effect with this screen, and apparently this doesn't work very well. As far as I tested and tried, I didn't see any 3D effect at all. So I guess that's a bit of a misleading thing about this phone. The screen, not that good. Now the next thing is the back camera. So the back facing camera is a bit weird in terms of video. For example, it's lower quality than the front facing camera, which is a bit of an odd choice. I guess, you know, this is for taking selfies, whatever. But the video quality options that they give you are low, medium, high, and fine. So for me, the high and fine, I don't know which one is better. So I was trying to get the best quality out of this phone, but then when I went in the computer and just checked the specs, because they don't tell you what's the camera specs for this phone, apparently the back camera only does 720p footage, and that only 25 or 30 frames per second, which is a bit odd for me. Like, these days, full HD is the standard. Anything below that is not acceptable. So for me, that, you know, especially a video guy like me, I'm thinking the back camera for video is totally useless. And especially when you're filming HDR, it's sometimes crashing. So I'm not happy about the back camera. Let me tell you that. I'm not happy about the back camera. The next thing, bad side, just guys, bear in mind, you know, it's a cheap phone. Just, you know, when you're looking all through these bad features, you might think, oh, it's a rubbish phone, I'm not gonna buy it. But just think, you know, it's really cheap. So as I said, that the good side is the design, where it looks really cool. When you keep looking at it closer, you're just wondering about certain design features. For example, the micro USB slot in the bottom here is flipped the other way. So whereas everybody else has like this tower on the top or closer to the screen, this one has it the other way. So when you're used to plugging all your devices into micro USB ports, then you're gonna have to do it the other way with this phone. A little bit odd. And then when you look at the audio jack over here, you can see that the audio jack is not in the middle of the device, but it's just like off the center, which is just like, why would you do that? This is like, you know, where you've made such a nice phone and such a nice design, why can't you have the audio jack in the middle of the bottom end of the phone? Which is just a little bit odd to me. Another thing that I just remembered is that the actual speaker, when you're making phone calls, it's not as good as on my Samsung one. It wasn't very easy or good to hear people. So, I mean, it wasn't really bad, but recognize the difference between the Elephone and Samsung. It was a very distinct difference. This is much easier to hear people than this one. So, if I had to mark this phone out of 10, what would I mark this? So I would say this phone, for me, out of 10 is 4.9. Which means that it just ranks below average for me. Because even though it's got some great specs, you know, a lot of RAM, a lot of inside memory, fast GPU, CPU, I mean, and, you know, cool design and things, where you actually use the phone, there's some big fallbacks in terms of actual usability and being good to use. So that's why I think there's some improvements to do with this phone. But for gaming, and if you're not using this for business, because I'm using my phone all the time, it needs to be a good phone. So whereas this one, I just popped my SIM out of it and went back to the old one, which I didn't want to do, to be honest. I didn't want to do. I gave it the benefit of doubt, but what happens if you give someone a benefit of doubt? But it still made me doubt. Thank you so much, guys, for watching this episode of Tech Notice, and I hope that this video helped you decide whether this phone is for you or not. If you do want to check this phone out, like always, the link is in the description. And hey, if this is the first time we're meeting you guys, I'm glad we've met. Welcome, my name is Lauri. Nice to meet you. Let's shake hands virtually, give you all the tech and all these tech videos and videography and photography tips in this channel. So if you're into that kind of stuff, consider subscribing. If you did find this video helpful, please leave a like, and now that's Peter McKinnon, but we're not doing him. I'll see you soon. Thanks for watching. Bye. Thanks for watching this episode of Talk. What?
Talk.
Talk?
Talk Notice.
Can you get me the box for this? My passion is to